New Day Northwest is back. Now, from the AAA Travel Alcove, here's Margaret Larson.
Hi there. Landing the job you want is getting more and more challenging as you navigate through layers of information followed by a series of interviews, and that's if you're lucky to get that far along. Marketing expert Jaclyn Johnson turned her own challenging experience into an online platform to help women succeed at every level, and she shares her insights in the best-selling book, WorkParty. Jaclyn, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Explain, if you would, first of all, just what happened with you that made this such an area of concern.
Absolutely. So I started my first company when I was 23 years old. After being laid off. Not so fun, but happens to a lot of people. Yep. But it really was the kickstart I needed to start my first company. And then obviously went on to start this company, made a ton of mistakes, as you do, and then really created Create and Cultivate and now WorkParty to be a resource for women going through the same things I was going through. Because when I Googled for help, nothing online looked, felt, or spoke to me in a way that related to what I was going through.
Because everything has changed. You know, the old days of you get your college degree and there's an automatic job to be had and on you go and you work in that forever is not so much the case. People are getting downsized, laid off, benefits may not be good, or they're just interested in something else. So when we come to WorkParty, what do we find to help us through that? Yeah, so work has fundamentally changed. You know, the one-year career is very real, the gig economy, all of these different things are sort of coming into play, which is new to a lot of us. And WorkParty is really a book that's redefining work and the meaning of work for modern millennial women at the end of the day. And so how do you approach work in a new way where you're not necessarily going to be at a company for 35 plus years? Maybe you want to start your own business, maybe you want a profitable side hustle. All of these things are possible. You just need the tools, tips, and tricks to succeed. And that's what you give us. So let's say you have lost a job. Yes. Tell me about your approach to dealing with that. Yeah, so losing a job, getting laid off, it's very common. And I think the reality is a lot of people view this as a negative, which it can be. But if you kind of flip that and turn it on its head and think of it as a positive, as a fresh new start, and I think what you need to do, step one, is really redefining your career narrative. So what does your LinkedIn profile look like? What's your resume look like? What is the job that you want to go out and get after this occurrence, where you're building the narrative up to that story, essentially. And I think a lot of people just sometimes like, all right, well, throw out the old resume, throw it in the mix. You can't do that anymore. You really have to think it anew. And all your Instagram channels, your Facebook, LinkedIn, they all have to map back to this narrative that you're building for the career you want. Interesting. So there is a connection, and it should build into one, complete picture of you. Let's talk about people who do something on the side. Maybe they have a career they like, but there's something they're really into. They're into wine or craft beer or whatever, and they're doing that on the side. We're calling these side hustles these days, but they can turn into careers as well. Yeah, I call it the 9 to 5 and the 5 to 9. Yeah. So what you're doing after hours. And I mean, the side hustle economy is very real, and I think the #1 question we get is, when do I quit my job and make this my full-time job? And the answer to that question lies in a couple different things. The first is financial runway. So knowing how much runway you have financially for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and what you need in order to succeed. And the other piece of that is bandwidth. So how much can you do on your own until you need to hire someone, until you need to make those moves? And that changes everything when you get to that part. And so you help us figure that out in the book. And one of the things that, it's scary, to sort of think about this, but it's also exciting on the other hand, because if you are your own boss, then you have all kinds of leeway that you've never had before to imagine things, do it your own way. How do you encourage people to flip that script so that it's not just negative, I'm worried, I lost my job, I need a job, that kind of thing? Yeah, I mean, sometimes worry can be a great motivator, but I think at the end of the day is being positive in the approach. I think really there's so much opportunity out there. More and more, especially women, are starting more companies, needing less capital to do so, and people are willing to help you. I think the biggest thing for me was when I got laid off from my job, I kind of didn't want to tell anyone. I was like, oh, I don't want anyone to find out about this. But the moment I sent the email out that was like, hi, I'm looking for freelance work or a full-time job, people were willing to help. So I think there's some vulnerability there, and I think you really have to embrace that. Yeah. Well, the old days of I got fired because I did something wrong, everybody knows that there's a lot of downsizing, changing, realignment, and that this is just something that happens to most people at some point during their career. So how do you navigate, or do you deal with in your book, what to do with things like benefits and having health insurance? Yeah, absolutely. So I really break down in the books like how I started my company. Did I hire freelancers? Did I do full-time employees? When did I offer benefits? How much does it cost fundamentally to run a business, and how to look at your P&L and things of that nature? And I think
no one really teaches you that stuff unless you go to business school. And a lot of people who start businesses didn't go to business school.
Correct.
So I think, what I really wanted to do was break down in real talk, simple terms, here's the fundamentals of launching a business, and here's what I learned along the way.
That is absolutely a wonderful thing, and I think we don't know until we're right about to do it that we're going to launch a business these days. So you don't have time to go back and sort of do this all over again. Are businesses good for example, if people have something they're dealing with in their own lives that may make ordinary employment difficult for them, is this a good step forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, flexible work is very popular right now, even amongst corporate companies where it's like, hey, I can't be in the office 3 days, or 5 days a week. I want to be there 3 days a week. I want to work from home. These are all negotiables when you're interviewing for a job. So kind of going into it and saying, here's what I can bring to the table, but here's what I need as well. But the flip side, you're able to work from home when you work for yourself, or you're able to work from the office and make your own hours, which is the perk of being the boss. So I think there's a lot of different opportunities, and we were just talking a little bit about there's a lot of things you can do from home, from MLM marketing and kind of creating these side hustle businesses that don't require you that much. It's really kind of putting the product first.
It's so interesting. It's a great book, and it helps us kind of imagine anew what we can be and what we can do. Thank you very much. Sorry you got laid off at 23, but I'm really glad you learned all those lessons. Exactly. Up next, we'll talk about erasing years and minutes without a plastic surgeon. We'll be right back.